We're standing outside the Castillo de San Marco in downtown St. Augustine, Florida, one of the many national parks that were forced to close during the government shutdown earlier last month. The Castillo de San Marco is a popular tourist attraction for almost all who visit St. Augustine. Due to the lack of appropriation in government, the Castillo, or the fort as locals refer to it, had to shut down for over 2 weeks, impacting tourists in St. Augustine, those employed by the National Park Service, and even the local population. Kim Mayo, the chief park ranger of the Castillo de San Marcos, said that people were not happy about the fort closing.
A lot of people were upset and angry. We had a few protests during the time, Tea Party protest. Another group decided to jump over the gate and try to enter the fort. And they did because we had a staff member inside and they were able to open the door. So a group did come in. We gathered the 15 people up and escorted them outside the fort. But we definitely received some negative feedback.
St. Augustine averages around 60,000 tourists every weekend, and visiting the fort is typically the highlight of their tour of the city. The lack of a national park as a tourist destination affected local business owners in St. Augustine who rely on the tourism industry to support their businesses. Military veteran Jeff Miller works for St. Augustine Tourism Information, and he says that the closing of the fort had a trickle-down effect on the residents of the nation's oldest city.
Hold on these checks that affects everybody expeditiously because of the fact that you have 2 or 3 people that are affected by it directly, and then their families are obviously affected by it, and their families are affected by it. It's a snowball effect, unfortunately.
The U.S. government shutdown closed down all national parks, including the Castillo de San Marco. That left some Flagler College students wondering if they were going to graduate on time.
Many Flagler students are required to have an internship with a minimum of 120 hours in a semester in order to graduate, depending on their particular degree. Veronica Petrucci, a senior at Flagler, interns under IT specialist Alan Arnold at the Castillo de San Marcos. She lost 20 hours of internship time and couldn't believe that the government shutdown could affect her academic future.
I found out about it like the day before it happened, so it was kind of a spur of the moment thing. Alan walks in and he's like, "Oh, by the way, might not be having a job tomorrow." And I was like, "What are you talking about? It's the government, it doesn't shut down."
Fortunately, Veronica will graduate on time due to help from her professor as well as her supervisor at the fort.
They've all been very helpful in that they know the struggle behind it because they themselves were out of a job, at least my advisor at the fort was. So he worked really closely with me in order to help me get all my hours together in order for my internship requirements, as well as Dr. Enright, my academic advisor for my internship. She was the one who said, "Hey, just go read a book about it, and that can count towards your internship because it still counts as personal research." So they were all very helpful in that.
Unlike Veronica's supervisor, Kim Mayo was considered accepted or essential staff. That meant she kept her job throughout the shutdown. Still, she hopes that the February deadline for the government to decide on the debt ceiling doesn't cause the fort to shut down once again.
We just hope we're not in the same situation come this winter.
For WFCF News, I'm Matthew Rosado.
And I'm Sarah David.